If you're automating for the first time, that feels awful because then you really don't feel like you know what you're doing.
And now at this point, I kind of forgot that I even have that running until I just thought of it right now.
I've just built a couple kind of in preparation for this episode because I was like, what are some newsletter-centric automations I can build?
It's one of those things like I didn't even consider to automate.
And the thing that a lot of people are probably thinking is like, automation sounds hard. If you do automatic bill pay, you're automating. If you have direct deposit, you're automating. If you've set up an email autoresponder, you're automating. So that's like the most complicated one that I can't live without. Here's one we can all use.
Well, Joe Casabona is here today with us on the Growth in Reverse podcast. And we wanted to walk through some fun automations and ways that creators can save time. Joe is my favorite automations guy. He's also about 20 minutes from my house, so it's fun to get together and hang out. But yeah, we just wanted to have him come on and jam about automations and see how we could save people time. So Joe, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me. I'm super stoked. I always wonder if I should disclose that we live close to each other, like in the community, right? Like I'm always like, oh, should I? Is that like a weird thing to say?
I think it's kind of cool.
Yeah, right.
I think it's cool.
I agree.
Well, Joe, I guess, do you want to kind of share like how you got started with this, what you do now, and just give us kind of like the quick highlights version?
Yeah. There's like a funny side to this story and then like a bummer side to this story a little bit, right? So the funny side to the story is my friend in 2018, after my first child was born, challenged me to do less. He said, what would your day look like? What would your business look like if you did less? And what he meant was say no to more stuff. Stop saying yes, say no. And what I heard was, yes, how can I make robots do things for me? So I'm taking on more still, but I'm doing physically less of it. And that's when I really started automating in the way that people think of automation today. I have a master's in software engineering. So like I've been writing code to do stuff for me for a very long time. But there was like a shift where I was like, I don't want to build tools that then I also have to support. Like, I feel like that takes focus away from what I should be focusing on. So that was like the kind of, okay, let me start down the Zapier, make.com, other automation tools path. But then it came to a head during the pandemic. And here's the bummer side of it. My wife is a nurse. Our second kid was born. And I had a panic attack one day because I wasn't working because I was watching the kids. They weren't in school. And I was just very tired one day and stressed. And I start crying and I'm like sitting on my kitchen floor. And my daughter, who was 3 at the time, like brought me a bottle of water and she's like, it's okay, daddy. Everything is going to be okay. And I was like, this is not okay with me at all. And that's when I was like, man, I need to like fix something. The next day I could work. I made a list of everything I do and just like drew lines through the things I personally didn't have to do. And that's when I really started to automate, and the things that I couldn't automate, I delegated. And like I hired a VA very shortly after that. And she is still with me today. And I give her raises all the time because I'm like, please never leave me.
Well, that's a good little segue. So is that how you recommend people start with automations? Is like write down all the things that you do, figure out what you probably don't need to do, and then automate from there? Or
yeah, exactly. Because like, I mean, if you just go to like Zapier and you're like, what should I automate? Right? That's like a blank cursor syndrome. Like you don't really know what you do and what can be done. Right? So I have like a 3-step process. Right? The first step is write everything down. Right? This is like the document phase. I will usually tell people pick a specific area. Right? So your newsletter, write down everything that you do from your newsletter, from coming up with ideas to writing it to publicizing it, everything in between. Leave no stone unturned here, right? Because like when I do this exercise with people like, oh yeah, well, I'll usually like think of what to write, Monday morning, and then I'll write it and then I'll send it. And I'm like, no, you skipped 100 things there. How do you write it? Where do you write it? How do you come up with the ideas? Where do you put it to send it? How do you send it? Who do you send it to? Do you use images? Tell me everything, right? So write down everything. If you feel like you're forgetting, I like to keep a piece of paper, or like a notebook, multiple pieces of paper bound together next to me. And if I'm doing something new, I will write it down as I'm doing it so that I don't forget. Right. Which is also helpful because now you're documenting what you're doing, and that's easier to delegate later. But the second step of this is look at the list and really ask yourself, do I personally need to do this? And this is where a lot of people will be like, yes, I need to do all of this. Only I can do this. But here's the secret. Unless it requires your brain or your mouth, your voice, you don't personally need to do it. Right? That is the most extreme version of it. Because like, okay, I still do sponsorship outreach and I still do guest booking because the relationship side of it is really important to me. But like, as far as do you need to do it, be just brutal. Like just cut away anything that doesn't require your brain or your voice. And then that's when you can start the process of automating things. So that's the first step. The second step is ask yourself these 3 questions. Pick a task, ask yourself these 3 questions. Am I sending information between multiple apps? Does it require more than simple decision making? And is the input and output pretty much the same every time? If the answers to those questions are yes, no, yes, strong candidate for automation. So if the first question is, I've been talking for a really long time, I'll stop after this.
It's okay.
The first question, am I sending data between apps? If the answer to that is yes, if the answer to does it require more than simple decision making is no, and is the input and output pretty much the same every time? If the answer to that is yes, you have a strong candidate for automation. Because then it's like, you can probably just explain what you want to do to Zapier and it'll build the Zap for you. Like it'll build the automation pretty much for you.
Can you give us an example, a simple example for somebody who's struggling to visualize this?
Yeah, for sure. So I have a feedback form for my podcast, streamlinedfeedback.com. That is a Notion form because I want it to go into my podcast planner. That's where I go for all of my content. So if I'm doing a feedback episode or a segment where I'm like, oh, here's some follow-up from listeners, that's where I'm going to go. For a while, I was offering a free like lead magnet for anybody who filled out the feedback form. So let's walk through the questions here. Am I sending data between 2 apps? Important detail, I use Kit for my newsletter. So if they fill out the feedback form, I want them subscribed to my newsletter. Am I sending data between 2 apps? Yes. Someone fills out their name and email address. I want to send that over to Kit. Great. Does it require more than simple decision making? No. The only decision that needs to be made is I'm checking to see if they have opted in to the mailing list. Because if they didn't, I don't want to send their information. I want to respect their wishes. And then is the input and output pretty much always the same? Yes, the input is always going to be name and email, and the output is always going to be them getting added to my mailing list so that they can get that opt-in. So that's kind of a really simple explanation of how it breaks down.
Okay. Thank you. I like it.
Yeah, I like those 3. That's a good gauge for whether something should be automated or not. It's so easy because you mentioned before, like people don't write down all the steps. You think you skip things, you forget this happens. I am so guilty of that because I'm like, yep, I'm just going to, do this first thing and the second thing. And then I'm like, oh, wait, there's a whole bunch of stuff in the middle that I totally missed.
Yeah. I mean, if you watch my live streams, like I just like, oh, let me see if I can build this automation. Like I think that's instructive for a lot of people. And the other day I did it and I'm like, oh, I'm totally forgetting this really important thing. And then, I think out loud and I talk through it. But if you're automating for the first time, that just feels awful because then you really don't feel like you know what you're doing. So you want to you kind of want to know, and it's also harder to test, right? If you don't know what the outcome is, you can't really test to see if it worked.
That's a good point.
So if we jump into some more like simple examples, like I think one that you made me realize was very easy to do in the Growth Reverse Pro community, when I create an event in Circle, which is the one tool, I wanted it to add an event to the Google Calendar that was shared between members. And so you were like, why are you manually doing this? This makes no sense. That's a complete waste of time. And now at this point, I kind of forgot that I even have that running until I just thought of it right now.
Nice.
But it's great. It like adds the Zoom link. It adds like all the stuff, which is super helpful. But it's one of those things like I didn't even consider to automate. Just wondering if there are like any common automations that people can typically get started with, and then we can move into some fun ones too.
Yeah, this is a really good question. So one of my favorites is when I had a membership. This is like my constant internal battle of like, should I have a membership or not? It's usually no for me right now. But when I had a membership and people were actually joining it, I wanted to give them a personalized welcome. This is how you can tell that I shouldn't have a membership, because I had the capacity to do this, right? So I ran my membership through a plugin, a WordPress plugin called Paid Memberships Pro. And I used a service called Bonjoro to send them a personalized video. And so really simple automation, instead of me having to go into Paid Memberships Pro once a day and be like, did anybody join today? What's their email address? And then copying their email address and moving it over to Bonjoro, I have an automation that when a new Paid Memberships Pro order comes in, create a task in Bonjoro. And then I get a push notification from Bonjoro on my phone to be like, hey, a new member signed. So there's like that little dopamine hit that's like, hey, someone gave me money. And then also, as soon as I can, right, I send them a video from my phone. I make sure to say their name so they know it's like personalized, and I'm not just doing that like, hey, you, thanks for signing up. Sent from my iPhone.
Yeah. I have a question, follow up to this.
All right.
So a lot of people listening will potentially have memberships, but will likely have newsletters or email lists. Then they're getting subscribers all the time. Is this something you could do in that way with a new subscriber? And if so, how?
Great question. Is it something I personally could do? Yes, because I don't have scores of people joining my newsletter constantly. But yeah, totally. I have Zapier up here, actually. So I'm just going to go ahead and do a quick check on, let's say, Kit, right? We all use Kit here. So in Kit, trigger, new form subscriber, right? They also have new purchase, subscriber added to tag. So we can get varying levels of specific here. Whenever someone signs up to, it says a specific form here, there's also just new subscriber, right? So maybe you have 10 forms, anybody who joins, that could be the trigger, right? And we haven't talked about the 4 components of automation. So I'm going to like put that in the back of my head. And then I didn't mention the third thing from how to figure out what to automate, but that's okay. We can go back to that. We got the 2 really important tasks, right? So yeah, trigger is the thing that kicks off the automation. New subscriber is one of them. New form subscriber is another. New purchase.
And so you're just looking in Zapier right now to see what's available, right?
Yep. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. It would be wild if I just like had those memorized, right? That could be like a fun game, right? I'm going to name an app and you tell me all the triggers. Yeah. So that's the trigger. And then the action is create a task in Bonjoro. So you can definitely do it for that. You can also do it for maybe people who click on a specific link, right? Maybe you're trying to sell something like a growth vault of sorts and someone clicks, but they don't buy, right? Ooh. So now when they click and they don't buy, maybe when they click, they get added to Bonjoro. Maybe if they don't buy within a day or so, they get added to that attrition sequence. That's like, hey, why didn't you? I noticed you clicked, but you didn't buy.
Yeah, like a cart abandonment type thing.
Right. Add them to Bonjoro then, and instead of sending them an email being like, hey, Sally, I saw that you clicked on the growth vault link, but I don't think you bought it. I'm just wondering if you had any questions for me. Right? That's like a really personalized, maybe, I don't think that's creepy.
I think
really
that's very
personalized thing. Do you think it's creepy? Yeah.
I have the opposite take. Yeah. I think that's awesome.
I think the wording matters.
It has a
here,
level
right?
of creepiness to it. Yes.
Yeah.
but I
Yeah.
think it is really powerful
Yeah.
for the right person, and some people will be
Yeah.
definitely turned off by it.
I think like I saw that you clicked and didn't buy is the wrong wording. It's probably like,
Mm.
hey Sally, looks like you were interested in the growth vault. If you have any questions about it, let me know. And not like, please love me, buy my thing, right? Like that's weird.
Well, I think everybody's used to people know about cart abandonment, whether they know about it or not, because you go on any e-commerce site these days and you maybe put something in your cart, but you abandon it, right? And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, I got an email from this company that I forgetting something. You left something in your cart,
Mhm.
those emails, right? So I think most
Right.
people are familiar
Please
with
love
that
us.
kind of
Yeah.
messaging and those types of emails. So I think
Yeah.
it's less creepy than it probably was like 5, 10 years ago.
Have you ever
Yeah.
added something to your cart and left it just to see if they send you a discount?
All the time.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
Oh, Dylan's like too honest.
My mind just exploded. I never even
Really?
considered that.
Absolutely.
I'm just too
Huh.
Canadian, I guess.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
the Americans that would do that.
Yeah. Always looking for a deal.
Always. That's funny.
That is funny.
Okay, so we can automate kind of reaching out to people based on their actions. Are there any like super common ones you think people probably don't have set up that they definitely should? And we can talk, I mean, this could be a newsletter creator, this could be just a podcaster, anything you think should be set up.
I've just built a couple kind of in preparation for this episode because I was like, what are some newsletter centric automations I can build? And Chenell, you mentioned something you didn't even think of automating. This happened to me yesterday, right? Because I was going through my welcome sequence again. I've changed the positioning for my newsletter and I've gotten really good feedback. And now I'm like, hey, now that this page is the page, I should make sure that like my welcome sequence delivers on what I actually talk about. And I saw there's an email that says, hey, do you want this VA template? I will send it to you. Just respond to this email and say template. And I was doing that manually because I'm like, well, Kit doesn't know, right? And then I realized I could build an automation that watches my email address for there's two conditions you want to look for here. Colon and then the name of the email that of the subject of the email you're sending, and then the word template. This is going to throw a weird false positive because the word template is in the email they're responding to, so they could say literally anything, but that's fine. They're responding to the email, so they get the template. And then you could tag them in Kit so that they get added to another sequence that sends them the email, the template. I just use there is an action, which the second part of the automation, the trigger kicks it off. The action is what happens after it's kicked off. The action, reply to thread or reply to email. So you can literally reply, like you can have this email in the same thread. You just need the thread ID, which you get from the email that triggers the automation. So that's what I
Okay.
do because now it's all in the same, you know what I'm saying? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, recap it. Or sorry, Chenell, you go
Yeah.
ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say, do you want to just share your screen because I got lost with the thread ID thing, but I have something similar to this set up. But I think mine at this point is a little more manual. So I have like 3 Gmail labels that I use. One is like welcome email replies. One was 30 days of growth replies when I was doing that. And then another one is just like any other email people reply to. And so I will manually move them into folders.
So this is something that I was going through considering, right? I could do that. My philosophy is like the fewer links in the chain, the better, because if one link breaks, the whole chain is compromised. Because I thought like, oh yeah, I could like label them in Gmail and then just watch for a new label. But I decided, I mean, like I'm an overcomplicator, so that's part of it. But there is a trigger in Zapier that is new email matching search, and then the account that you're watching. So make sure you're watching on the email address you're sending to or sending from. And then the search, I tested this in Gmail because this is like a Gmail search box search. You can use the builder in Gmail to double check this. So I'll do the first part last. But the subject is the delegation system that saved my sanity plus free template. And then also just separately the word template. So if you're looking at Gmail and you see the big search bar across the top, if you look at the right-hand side of that bar, you see like a 3 slider dial icon thing. And that's going to bring down just a form you fill out, and it'll build the query for you.
Yeah.
So it'll build all of this for you, because we will get into what Zapier lovingly calls a zap loop. Because a new email would hit my inbox with the same subject and the same keyword template in it. And so I would just keep sending myself this email over and over again. So like, that's really important. Do not include emails that I've sent that match this search query.
So that's what you're saying. So from, and the negative sign is your email, so that you're excluding that.
Omit them
Yeah,
or exclude them.
exactly. It's exclude.
Okay.
Yeah, right. Minus is exclude.
Right.
So this is the trigger. It fires every 2 minutes. Timing is one of the other components of an automation. So how often will this run? Some are instant. Some need to be what's called polled. It's called polling. You need to worry about this less with Zapier. Okay, so that's the trigger. That's the search. And then the action is event reply to email. And in order for it to know how to reply, right? Because in Gmail, you have threads. I mean, this is like every email inbox app now, but you have threaded conversations, right?
Mhm.
And so Zapier and Gmail need to know what threaded conversation to put this under. And so you need a message ID that comes in from the trigger, right?
Right.
Every email has an ID associated with it. You also still need to include a to address. So you need the thread ID and the from email, both of which come from the trigger. So you don't need to know those at all. And then I'm sending a plain text email with the text here, right? Hey, thanks for being on the list. As you might imagine, this very email is automated. I say this for 2 reasons. It's on brand for me, but also saying hey and then full name is weird, right? Hey, Joe Casabona, thanks for being on the list. Doesn't feel like it's obvious that someone did not write that email. And so I'm just recognizing that I'm not physically writing this email. And so I say this email is very automated, but if you respond, you'll get me. I just wanted to deliver this template to you as quickly as possible. Here you go.
So
I
I'm
like it.
curious why you're like completely excluding Kit out of this automation. Is there a reason and you might have said this already, is there a reason that you're sending it from Gmail and not like tagging people as replied in Kit and then adding them to a sequence?
Yeah, good question. I wanted this, it's partially the way I word it, right? Reply to this email with template and I'll send you the template. So I wanted
Right.
to keep the conversation going, quote unquote.
That makes sense.
But also, I didn't want to have a weird timing issue either. Like, I know that once this automation goes, they'll get the email. Whereas with Kit, it's like this automation has to go. It tags them in Kit. Then in Kit, it adds them to the sequence. Then I guess it could send it immediately. But again, it's like about like fewer links in the chain, right? Like this is, they match the search, they get the search. What I could do after this is tag them, right?
That's what I was going to say. Yeah. It's probably a good idea.
You can have like multi-action automations, right?
Right.
It's one trigger and then one or more actions. So yeah, I did think about that, tagging them as like, oh, they wanted the template.
Right. Or just they replied.
Yeah. Or they replied. Yeah. Right.
Okay, cool. Well, so that's a good one. Any other basic ones that we should be thinking through, or?
Yeah. So I use Senja. I know you use Senja as well. So I set this up. Now we can speak more generally about why you would do this, because there could be a bunch of reasons. But Zapier has something called tables now. It's like their answer to Airtable, pretty much. And so I have a table in Zapier called Kit subject lines. And so anytime I send an email in Kit, it gets added to this Zapier table. Why would one want to do that? Because something else that I like to do is ask people for feedback or ask them for a testimonial, right? And so if I send an email, it's like, hey, if you've enjoyed this email, like I'm rebuilding the landing page, can you send a testimonial? Here's a Senja link, or just respond to this email, right? Or sometimes people just say nice things. Like I got an email from a mutual friend of ours yesterday that was like, I absolutely loved this newsletter, right? And I'm like, okay, now I got to remember to capture that. But what I'm doing here, right, is sending the email, recording the subject line in a Zapier table. So that's kind of step one. I think this is probably a good thing to do if you are automating stuff, because you're not relying on an ESP anymore. And then there's a lot of utility in how you might use this, right? The other thing that I do once this happens is this it? I didn't name it. That's sloppy. Yeah. So the other thing I'll do is when someone replies to one of those emails, I forward it to Senja as an unapproved testimonial, right? So someone replies to one of my emails, 90% of the time they're saying something nice. And so I want to capture that. So for this, it is grab any subject line with the word in my inbox. I normalize stuff here. But here's where the important bit happens. Okay. Is I'm checking the table kit subject lines to see if the search terms match one of the subjects I've sent. So for example, I sent an email a couple weeks ago called Ready, Fire, Aim. And someone responded, love this, Joe. Really shows like how good you are at iterating, whatever they said. I mean, that's a nice thing. Something someone said, send it to Senja. Maybe I can use it, right? So what this is doing is looking up in the Zapier table all of the subject lines, and it's searching for Ready, Fire, Aim. And if it finds it, that means they've responded to a kit email I sent. And so it sends that over to Senja. And then over in Senja, once a week, once every couple of days, I can go through and look at the new testimonials that were added instead of having to, again, remember to copy and paste them for the sake of social proof, right? So this is how I'm using it. A way that you can also use it is when people respond to an email with a question, log the question in Google Sheets or something, right? Because that's the other thing. Now you have to go, like, what am I going to write about? I need a place for ideas, right? Anybody who responds with a question, that would be great to have in a single place. And then I'll add the last bit here is that Zapier gives you a custom email address for their email by Zapier trigger. So I added that into Kit and I gave it 2 tags, confirmed and exclude. And so when I send an email and I'm like, I'm going to get 1 million responses to this email and none of them are going to be nice, or they're likely not going to be testimonials, right? I can exclude that email so that it doesn't get added to the lookup table, right? So you can be selective inside of Kit or whatever your ESP is about what subject lines get added to the lookup table.
Okay. The $1 million question for me is, if I'm A/B testing subject lines, they both get added.
No, that's a good question. It is only the one that gets sent to the Zapier email.
Winner.
Got it.
Maybe not even the winner, right?
Oh.
Because if that Zapier email address is included in one of the tests, it would just be that one. Good question.
Okay. Thanks.
Can you exclude? Yeah. See, so that's kind of where it falls apart, right? Like the other thing you could do is manually add subject lines, but then we're getting out of the realm of automation, right?
Yeah.
Right.
The other way this wouldn't work for me because I am sending from my main email address, but if you have a newsletter email address sender, right? Newsletter at whatever, or sender at whatever, then it could be like any responses to that email address. That could be the thing that triggers the automation.
Right.
Yeah.
I guess
Okay.
you could also look for like some line that you have in every email address, right? Or in every email that you send, part of your kit template, something like that, right? This is where we're on the verge of overcomplicating it.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
But like the general idea here is like, do you have a use case for capturing responses to your email addresses somewhere so that you can easily reference them later?
Right.
Chenell, would this have been helpful when you sent out that one email, just that one you did send out a few weeks ago on a whim, where you're like, hey, just checking in, and you got a whole boatload of replies?
Yeah. So I went back and had them filled into a Google Sheet. So yes and no.
But not manually.
No. No, I
Okay.
like after you set up a Zap, I think you can go back and like force it to like
Mhm.
look at past events, and then
Yeah.
I forget what that's called, and I can never find it when I want to find it because I use it like once every 6 months. But yeah, that was a good use case for that.
Yeah. That's like one of the other really good things about, for a while I was like, oh, you should use Make instead of Zapier because Make is like 90% cheaper. But like testing Make is so dumb. It's like, it's
It's so
pretty
not
bad.
intuitive at all.
It's really not.
Mhm.
And then like the timing thing I mentioned, like if you run an automation too much, you blow past your limit for the month really quickly and then you get charged more. Whereas like Zapier like abstracts a lot of that away. So it's like a lot clearer like how you get charged.
Yeah. Okay. Do you want to go back to your like 4-part thing?
Yes.
Yeah.
4 components from
Good.
automation.
Yes, the
components.
4 components of automation. So the 4 components of automation, the first one is trigger. This is going to be the thing that kicks off some event, right? Every automation needs a trigger, and that could be someone signs up for your mailing list, someone responds to an email. It's 6:00 p.m. in December. Like that could also be a trigger.
Okay.
That also kind of sounds like a Fall Out Boy song. And so like any of those, it's a thing. I wish I could tell you that was a canned joke, but I just thought of that right now.
That makes it better.
But thank you. Yeah. And the thing that a lot of people are probably thinking is like automation sounds hard. I've never automated anything, right? If you do automatic bill pay, you're automating. If you have direct deposit, you're automating. If you set up an email autoresponder, you're automating, right? It doesn't have to be complicated. But understanding these components is like understanding the ingredients of a good automation, right? And so the trigger is necessary, right? It has to there has to be an inciting incident, right? Number 2 are actions. So once an automation is triggered, this is one or more actions that are performed. So in the someone signs up for my newsletter, the action could be send them the PDF that I promised them, or send them the welcome email, add them to the welcome sequence, right? All of those things are actions based on the trigger somebody signed up for my mailing list. If it is someone replies to an email, we just looked at a lot of use cases for that. And 6 p.m. in December, right? The action there could be turn on my Christmas lights. So those are the actions. There could be one or more. So in the respond to the VA template email, right? The trigger was someone responds to that email with the word template. The first action is send them the template. The second action is tag them as replied, right? Or tag them as VA template. Those 2 are the required ones. Every automation needs at least, one trigger. Exactly. You can't have more than one trigger. And at least one action. The next 2 are optional but helpful. So number 3 is conditions. So you can check for certain conditions that will trigger an action as well. A condition of someone joins my mailing list. If they joined this form, send them this lead magnet. If they joined that form, send them this other lead magnet. If they have joined my newsletter more than once, don't add them to the welcome sequence. Stuff like that. For the Notion to Kit automation I was telling you, the condition was, did they opt into my newsletter? If opt-in is true, add them to my newsletter. So that's the condition. And that's why the second question, like, does it require more than simple decision-making, is really important. And then number 4 is timing. You can run automations immediately or at certain intervals. So send them the lead magnet thing. You want that to run basically immediately because you don't want them waiting hours or days to get the thing you promised them. Some don't need to run every minute or every hour. I used to have an email when Help a Reporter Out was a thing, where I had an automation that whenever I got an email from Help a Reporter Out, I would search for specific terms in the email, right? And that could be automation, Zapier, business owning parent, whatever it is, right? I would search for those terms, and if they showed up, add them to a Google Sheet so that I didn't have to sift through all of the calls for help from reporters. Help a Reporter Out sends emails 3 times a day, 6 a.m., noon, or they did. They're sadly no longer around. 6 a.m., noon, and like 7. So
they actually
I would
came
run
back.
Oh, they came back?
Yeah.
So they were gone for a minute. Now they're back with the jump off.
Yeah. They have like 1 email a day anymore, but.
Oh, nice. Okay. So let's say they send that email at noon, right? I would run this automation at 12:15 p.m. and it would search that email. And if any of my search terms hit, it would add it to Google Sheets. And then I would check that once a day for any emails that I might be qualified to respond to.
Right. That makes sense. I like that use case. I'm curious, like, just getting into like maybe some rapid fire ones. Like, what's the automation that you probably use the most? Because I think while we can sit here and be like, yeah, newsletters, it's all newsletter stuff. I think actually just like the, I don't know, workflow and that kind of thing is actually really helpful too. So I'm just curious, as someone who automates a lot, what is one of the ones that you regularly have running to the point where you might not even remember it's there?
Yeah, there are 2 that I think like my whole life would fall apart if they stopped working. One is my podcast guest flow. There's a lot of parts to this, but the really important thing for me is when someone books on my podcast, a bunch of stuff happens, right? They fill out my Calendly, and then they get added to my podcast planner in Notion so I could properly schedule it. A Google Doc gets created based on what they filled out so that I have a research point, but that Google Doc is also used by my VA and my editor. And then it gets sent to the guest as well. And then all of the reminder emails like, hey, we're talking soon. Hey, wear headphones. Please wear headphones. So like that's really helpful. On the other side of that flow is all of my file management. So this is now moving into very complicated.
Yeah.
But basically, I will record in Riverside. I will download the files. Those files will get renamed and put into a folder in Google Drive called pre-production. Or actually needs editing, right? Was that
I was going to say, yes. And this is all done automatically.
This is all done automatically. Yeah. So gets put into a folder called pre-production. The reason it's put there first is because I like to record a little intro in the beginning. And so I record the intro. I add it to the folder. The folder has been renamed the episode number. That is very important because once that folder has 3 files in it, it gets moved into the needs editing folder in Google Drive. When it gets moved into Google Drive, Notion is updated that the episode is out for edit. And my editor gets an email telling them, hey, there is a new episode for edit. Here's the Google Doc with the edit notes. Here's the folder with the files. When my editor is done editing it, I've been with my editor for 8 years, so I don't check his work anymore. Like I don't need to, right? Usually I'll listen to the episode before it goes live, especially so I can like talk about it on social if I want to, the one social network I'm still on. So when he sends it back, he uploads it to a folder called production, and then the status is updated in Notion to ready for scheduling. And my VA gets a notification, episode whatever is ready for scheduling. And then she takes it from there and schedules it where it needs to be scheduled. After I record that intro, I do not see the episode again until it hits my my podcast player.
Well, that's fun.
Yeah, super fun. So that's like the most complicated one.
Yeah.
That I can't live without. Here's one we can all use. It's called my shutdown routine, right? And so use whatever voice notes app you prefer. I use Whisper Memos because it works with Zapier. So I will just at the end of my day, Chenell, actually, I sent you a video right after I did this shutdown routine thing. So you can see like where my brain was, right? If you watch that video, you could probably tell it was like a little,
Yeah.
it was definitely the end of my day, right? I did the shutdown routine right before this and I said, respond to Chenell. And I'm like, I should just check this off my list now. So I will talk into Whisper Memos. It will transcribe everything I say. It'll send that transcript to ChatGPT and it'll say, hey, this is mostly a list of tasks I have to perform. Turn it into a list of tasks and send it to Todoist. So that is super crucial for me. I will say Todoist has now officially replaced that. They have their own Ramble feature, but I just talked a lot, do something with it is so crucial to me. I have ideas. I can talk into Whisper Memos. I can talk into my watch and say article idea and just kind of word vomit the article idea. And then it will create an outline for me. Or if I say like content ideas, it'll send it to the content idea project in Obsidian or whatever, right? So like I was hardcore people who talk to their phones are sociopaths. And now I am that. Like I talk to my phone all the time. I think that's probably not uncommon anymore, right? Because we have AI assistants on our phones now. But
Yeah.
it's like my most crucial idea captures are voice memos that then get processed based on what I say at the beginning of the voice memo.
One thing that you told me that you did in another conversation was you can set up a trigger for your voice memo too, where it'll filter these messages into the specific spots you want by saying the word article or article idea or whatever word you say. You start with that word, and that's where that memo will be categorized or captured. Is that correct?
That is correct. I think I should be able to show this to you. This is like terrible audio only content. Can we? Yeah, perfect. You don't need to see, if you're listening, you don't need to see this. But in Whisper Memos, there is a section called integrations. And right now I have two. One is called open threads. And so the trigger phrase for this is open threads. When I say open threads for whatever, open threads for October 20th, 2025. Whisper Memos knows to send this transcript to a specific zap I've created to process my open threads. The same thing with article, right? The trigger phrase is article idea. And so when I say article idea and pause, then I start talking about the article, it sends it to a very specific zap with a very specific prompt for ChatGPT to not add anything, just take my words and organize them into an article. And those are, I like writing. I write a lot of words. But like if I'm out and thinking about something, I'm not at my computer and it's like a real good idea. This is how I capture it and get the skeleton of that article. And like in Whisper Memos, you can have as many of these as you want. So like I could have I already have a zap for LinkedIn posts where when I record a short form video, again, I download it from Tela, because that's where I record my short form videos. It's just really easy. My automation will move it into a shorts folder in Google Drive. And then that triggers a zap that will transcribe everything and send it to ChatGPT with a very long prompt that's like, this is a video I want to post on LinkedIn. Make this a LinkedIn post. Here are all the parameters. Don't add anything. Only use the exact words that I've used. Come up with a good hook, right? Like that sort of thing. And then sends that all back to Notion.
So this Whisper Memos thing, you're saying article idea, is Whisper Memos doing the filtering, or does Zapier then read that and say, okay, the first two words were article idea, I'm going to put this into thing?
Yeah, great question. Whisper Memos is doing the filtering. Inside the app, it'll have like a list of all my memos. And then for some memos, it has the little Zapier icon next to it. And that means that note triggered the zap. So you can actually, if we're looking at my memos, there's one that says idea for the automation database. That triggered the zap, even though I didn't exactly say article idea. So it's more like a fuzzy search. I've matched enough of the trigger phrase for it to send that note to the zap. And then, there's another one, like open threads for September 29th. That one is always accurate because I'm saying literally the word. I never think like, oh, I need to buy thread from the store.
Okay. If we're not using Whisper memos, are there other tools that do something similar, or can you just kind of use your Apple voice notes or whatever app to do something like that too?
Yeah, absolutely. So the voice memos app on Apple, on
Yeah.
iPhone, if you will, transcribes. On Android, there is, I think it's called the Recorder app. Now, I should say Android, I just got for testing and funsies a Motorola Android phone. Samsung might be different. Google might be different. So Dylan, I don't know. You have an Android phone, right?
I've got a Google Pixel, yeah.
Okay. And so that has the Recorder app on it.
It might.
Okay. So it's going to have some recording app on it.
It does.
Right?
I say that in jest because you can see how often I've used it. Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
So my point here is I'm going to name specific Android apps, but I don't know if Motorola added those or if they're
Right.
core Android, right?
Okay.
But the one that I'm talking about, Recorder, it's like a light red icon. That will also transcribe and does a better job than the iPhone one, I've noticed. And timestamps it. It's pretty nifty, actually. All of that is to say that yes, you can have the native tools record and transcribe for you. So take it one level further. So the Shortcuts app on the iPhone, you can trigger zaps. And so you can send that over to a zap. I think the easier, probably more reliable thing would be to save that audio file or that transcript to a specific folder in Dropbox or Google Drive, because you still need to trigger the shortcut. And when you add stuff to the cloud storage, it very reliably works, especially with Zapier. Zapier very reliably works with Google apps.
I got ideas. I'm inspired.
Yeah. Is there a tool you have or sheet of sorts where people could look at better tools for specific use cases, or maybe trying to figure out what automations they should work on next or do first?
Oh, yeah. So I have a brand new quiz where you'll fill out a few questions and I will recommend I'll send you these automations to you based on what you filled out. So you can go to casabona.org/growth for that to take that quiz. casabona.org/growth.
Oh, I like this. This is going to be good. So we'll essentially be able to put in, here's what I do. I don't know. Here are some of the tools I use. And you're going to be like, yeah, stop overthinking this. Here are the top 10 things to.
Yeah, right.
automate.
It's kind of where do you struggle? Oh, logging ideas, creating content, task management, right?
Love that.
What tools do you use? Okay, here are a few to get you started.
Right. Nice. That's exciting.
Yeah.
How have you found all of this for people who are less tech savvy, but maybe they can reliably use an AI chat partner like ChatGPT or something like that, at figuring these things out as well? So they could use your quiz or potentially and or chat with ChatGPT and figure out, hey, can I connect this stuff? Have you ever recommended somebody do that or tried it yourself to see how well it works?
ChatGPT is pretty okay.
Pretty
Zapier is a
okay.
vast
All right.
tool.
Yeah.
It's it's 80%, and then it hallucinates the other bit, and the other bit is probably the hardest part to figure out, right?
Right.
My recommendation, the other thing that I put in the back of my mind towards the beginning of this episode is, after you write everything down, after you determine things that you don't need to do yourself, if you're I still don't know what I can do with Zapier, there is a page on Zapier that I feel no one talks about called Explore Apps.
Oh, yeah.
Zapier.com/apps. And it's a huge cheat sheet. You search for an app, let's say Google Sheets, and it will I mean, it's a auto-populating thing. So if you just type in Google, you can see all the Google apps it works with. But then you click on it, and there is apps you can pair it with, suggested zaps. But if you scroll all the way to the bottom, you can sort by triggers or actions. So you can see, okay, well, if I use Google Sheets, what if I want to do something when a new row is added to a sheet? Is that a trigger? It sure is.
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
if I want to create a new column? Is that an action? It sure is. And so if you're unsure, you can go and see what triggers and actions exist, or you can search for pairing apps and then it will suggest stuff for you. This is how I learned about, what did I learn about here? I was like going through this page for, if you go to my
Yeah,
YouTube
I was gonna say you
channel,
could just like spend hours like
Yeah.
going
Oh.
through all of these apps.
I
I
was
also
like
want to make use
shocked.
cases
Yeah,
just for an
right.
excuse to run some of these.
Yes. Now, the other thing, shockingly good, is Zapier's Copilot. And it's gotten better. So like you explain the automation you want, and it kind of goes nuts. It's like, okay, so you want to send things to this. Oh, I see that you've connected your Google account. Oh, and you also have access to this. So these are the two apps I'll use. Let me fill this out. Let me get the test data. Here's a first pass at the automation. What do you think?
So it's gotten better because I tried this in the beginning and it was not very good.
Yeah, it was not very good. And I decided to give it the old college try. I'm
And
probably
this-
going to do a YouTube video on this. Like, and it's probably going to be like a real dumb YouTube title, like
Sure.
person versus AI, which is the better automator or something.
Got to get those
Yeah.
clicks, buddy. Get those clicks.
That's right. Me with boxing gloves and the Zapier logo with boxing gloves.
It's
I
already
feel like
a
you
thing.
could just do like YouTube lives like once a day and just have people show up and be like, can you automate this? And you'll be like, watch this, blah, blah, blah. And then you have all these
Yeah.
like short videos of like, here's how to blank, blank, blank.
Oh man.
Yeah, I
I'll
would
be a
love that. I
guest.
wrote down, yes, I would love that. Like I wrote down on my little idea board here in front of me, Zapier roulette, also my stupid doodle. Zapier roulette, right? So like either what in an ideal world, I would vibe code a spinner for trigger and a spinner for action and then see what we can build. Or just like if I have a lively chat, people just shout out
Yeah.
this and this, right? And I see what I can do. So
I
come
like
to my
that
live
too.
streams and I'll do that. Everybody listening.
Mhm.
That's fun.
Do you do a lot of live streams, Joe?
I'm trying to do more. After the Grow with Social Challenge, the next thing, which listeners should know this, but for the Grow with Social Challenge by our very own Chenell and Dylan here, got me to post to LinkedIn 42 days in a row. I was going to go, we did 40 and then I wanted to do 42 because it's the answer to life, the universe and everything, And that's a Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Yeah. Okay.
reference.
I couldn't think of the name, but I know them. I knew which movie you're talking about. Yeah.
I really enjoyed it. And I think that the place I should really be for the exact reason we saw during this podcast, right? Which is like showing, like show, don't tell, right?
Right.
Is YouTube. And so I am for the next 40 days, for the next 5 weeks, because it's not going to be 40 days, is post 2 shorts, a long form, and a live stream to YouTube every week. I guess like
Wow.
I could do a community post on Thursdays just to fill in the 5 weekdays, but like why?
What's your YouTube channel, Joe? That we should check out.
It's if you search Joe Casabona, I'll show up. The big dumb handle is Joe Casa because some ding dong got Jay Casabona a bunch of years ago and then didn't use that channel for his main channel. And you can't like do the old switcheroo with handles on YouTube.
Dang.
So Joe
Okay.
Casa.
Joe
but
Casa.
Joe
It
Casabona.
works.
Cool.
And your channel's
That's
called Joe
fun.
Casabona?
Yes, Joe Casabona, parentheses, automations coach or automations and systems coach.
Sweet.
Nice. Cool.
I look like this. If anybody's
Just look for
I
the
look
yellow.
like, yeah, right.
Unless the Mets have just lost in the playoffs and is a black, not Mets. Oh my
Yeah.
God. I meant
What?
Yankees.
Oh.
I'm so sorry. Oh no.
Why? Yes, unless
Joe storms out.
unless the Yankees have lost in October, then I'm wearing a black Yankee hat because I'm
Yeah.
in mourning. It's fine.
That's right.
Yep.
That's right.
We're a few days past that now, so
We're
it's
a few
okay.
days
Mhm.
past that.
Mhm.
Yeah. I have moved to my my fall wardrobe, which is my navy shirt but as a hoodie. So I do try to stay on brand. It's
Nice.
like the same
Nice.
color.
Love it. Well, cool. All right. So Casabona.org/growth. You can go find Joe's quiz/helper tool that he's going to build for us. Check him out on YouTube. Casabona.org to sign up for the newsletter.
Yeah.
Anything
and,
else?
all the links are over on Casabona.org as well. Not that there's like that many anymore. I'm on LinkedIn and YouTube and my website. And that's
I was
it.
going to say,
Yeah.
can you tease the social platform that you have, the only social platform that you still use, which was,
Yes.
as you mentioned, LinkedIn?
That would be LinkedIn. Yeah.
That's great. Awesome. Well, thanks for coming to hang out, Joe. I guess people can go find you at all those places. We'll have them in the show notes too.
Mhm.
But thanks for sharing all your knowledge.
Yeah, this was great.
Casabona.org/growth. Everything we talked about will be there. So
Love
just
it.
the one place to
Cool.
rule them all.
Love it.
Awesome. Well, thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. This was great.